Okay, good morning. It is 9:30 a.m. on July 18th, or it's July 20th. Welcome to the July 20th. Is it the 20th?
No, this
Okay.
is July the 18th.
Okay, just reading the agenda here.
Oh,
It says the
did we?
20th, sorry. Yeah, welcome to the July 18th, 2024 meeting of the Downtown Design Review Committee. My name is Justin Brandon, and I am chair of the committee. The agenda and documents are located at https://okc.primegov.com/public/portal. You would then select the Downtown Design Review Committee meeting and click on an agenda item, and the relevant documents will come up below the item. Please see the agenda for additional information regarding meeting procedures and the review process. I want to welcome Mark Michaud to the meeting this morning. Thanks for filling in for Keith. And Mark, would you please call roll?
Got the microphone. Yes, Chairman Brannon,
Here.
Anthony Blatt,
Here.
Committee Member Caleb Copeland,
Here.
Committee Member Eric Schmidt.
Here.
You have quorum.
Okay, perfect. Item 2 on the agenda are the June 20th meeting minutes. If there are any comments or discussion, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion that we approve the meeting minutes.
Motion by Copeland, second
Second.
by Black. Please vote. Laura, we have an active motion. It says approved, but
Well, it's nothing is showing up.
Correct.
correct.
My screen says waiting for active motion.
You want to just do your voice vote?
Yeah, we can do a voice vote. Okay,
We'll give it one more chance.
all right.
And so we had a Copeland
Copeland Blatt
and
motion.
Copeland Blatt. Okay, so we'll do voice vote.
Perfect.
And so if you would call, if you'll just call the roll for voice vote, please.
Yay.
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 Okay, we're approved.
4-0, thank you.
Okay. Item number 3, cases withdrawn, there are none. Item number 4, continuous requests, there are none. Item number 5, consent docket, there are none. Item number 6, case for individual consideration, there are none. Item 7, other business, there is CE-01124 at 433 North Harvey Avenue. Laura?
The mices are not cooperating. I'm just going to scroll through, then go to the microphone and talk.
Okay.
So there were 2 slides. I apologize, Laura Griggs, Planning Department. There were 2 slides where I showed the area of encroachment, and I kind of shaded it in red just to give you an idea. This one it is the easiest to see, and you can actually visually see it when you drive by, because what's on the right of the screen is the newer addition where he wasn't allowed to encroach into the right-of-way, so he had to jog it back. And what's on the left clearly shows where he went in and provided new cladding, so it would look a heck of a lot better than it did originally. Just as a reminder, the current owner did not construct the original parking garage. So one could argue that he kind of inherited it when he bought it. There's a handout at each of your places that I put, that was provided by the applicant, and the pictures on the left are what it looked like from the street before he put the block on the building. And then he provided pictures on the right, real similar to some of the ones you saw that I just showed, showing how different it looks. You can still see, if you look down the alley, he wrapped the corner, but beyond that, you can see this metal. So, when this came up several years ago, the public, well, I think it was Development Services Department was the one that issued revocable permits at the time, and they actually allowed the construction of this new facade with a footing, with a revocable permit, which is very odd because revocable permits give the city the right to say, hey, you must remove what's encroaching in the right-of-way. And obviously, this work is not something you would expect someone to remove at some point. And so now, to clear it up, because they were looking at selling it, and to clear it up so that the property reflects all of the structure, and the ownership of the property reflects all of the structure, they're coming through just to close and subsequently vacate just that piece of the right-of-way where the block is encroaching, which is what I was trying to show here with the red.
Okay.
A lot of times, you hear concerns expressed by staff when somebody comes in. Most of the time, we're dealing with alleys, or we're dealing with entire streets, and we have concerns about back-of-house uses, that type of thing, cutting down on through traffic, but that's not the case here. It's not going to change any of the existing conditions. The sidewalk is the sidewalk. This won't take away from the sidewalk. The building is not going to encroach closer to the road. It's just to reflect the fact of here's the parking garage with this cladding, and that the ownership can be the footprint of this building. So, staff actually has no issues with this, as I stated in the staff report. We are recommending you provide a recommendation of approval to the Planning Commission, and I have that nice, concise motion as a suggestion at the end of the staff report for you. I've received no calls, no questions from anybody on this that got a notice. The applicant is here if you have questions. Or you might have questions for me.
Yeah.
If you need to go to another slide, just tell me and I can go make that happen.
Okay.
But do you have any questions for staff at this time?
My only question is the applicant states the facade was installed at the request of the city. And do we have the documentation of the city requesting that?
The applicant can come and speak to that. I wasn't here when all that happened. And it was not the planning department that made the request, but if I could, the applicant can address that. If you have no further questions for me,
Yeah.
we could have Mr. Dow
Sure.
come up and identify himself. And did you hear what Eric's question was? The question that he was wanting answered dealt with the documentation for this, when the city requested you to put the different facade on, and I know you have a lot more information on those details than I do. Yeah.
My name is Richard Dowell. I'm the president of Dowell Properties, that is the managing member of 430 of Dowell Center Parking Garage LLC. And in answer to your question, let me just dial back to 1995. There was a bombing, as you know. There were 120 people that parked in that garage that were killed in the bombing. And so the garage was closed for about 4 months. The FBI wouldn't let cars go in or out of the garage. We purchased the garage shortly thereafter from a gentleman that was in his mid-80s and wanted to retire. And frankly, that garage was built in 1979, and I'm sure it wouldn't pass muster if you look at that original garage, if it had to go through, I would hope it wouldn't pass muster if it had to go through the downtown design review today. Well, let me tell you what happened. We purchased the garage because we needed parking for a 20-story building we were developing, and we had moved the Journal Record Publishing Company into on Robinson, and there was no parking in that building, so we needed a garage, and this one was on the concourse, so you couldn't be too picky, and that was the only one available. And so we bought it. So then what happened is Bill Clinton came down to make a visit to Oklahoma City in about 1997 to launch the construction of the memorial. And so he was there with the governor and with the mayor, at the time was Mayor Humphreys, and they glanced at that monstrosity that was catacornered from the memorial, and I got a call that afternoon from Mayor Humphreys asking me if there's anything I could do to make that atrocity not look so awful. And I told him, I said, well, I looked at all the options. I said, the building is built right to the property line. It's made out of steel and concrete, and obviously the previous owner didn't spend a lot of money on cladding, as you can see. He just put what you'd put on an old barn or something out there. And I said, well, short of tearing the garage down and starting over again, there's just no way, because the whole structure is resting on this steel structure and concrete structure that is sitting on the property line. And I had an engineer check out what we could do in the way of a wall, and the thing is, a wall had to be at least a foot thick, filled with concrete and rebar to go up 54 feet to cover up the garage, and a structure, and it had to be that thick. And so we needed about a couple of feet to go down there and have what they call a keyed footing to the exertion footing so that this thing could support itself. And then we had to tie this thing to the garage, and of course you can't put it right next to it. There has to be a space because you have to weld the metal from the wall structure to the garage. So this all happened very rapidly. You've got to realize, and I was just told them, look, I need you to do something, and I need you to do it in the next 30 days. So I said, well, I started getting estimates on what this was going to cost, and it was like $1 million. And so I thought, good grief, I'd only, oh gosh, hang on a second. Damn it, I'm sorry. Should have had more sense in that. Anyway, it was supposed to be $1 million, and I had just been a retired professor for just a few years, so this was totally out of my reach. In fact, I'd only put a $150,000 down payment on the garage, so that was not going to work. So I figured I was going to have to do it myself. So I hired my own block layers, and I bought the scaffolding and hired a guy to rented some equipment. So we got it done for $300,000, and the city gave us a loan of $50,000 to help with the construction. So we got the job done in 3.5 months so that it didn't look like a disaster when they started to open the memorial. So that's the story of how this came to be what it is. Now, the fact that it was on a revocable permit at the time, I guess with the experience I have today in real estate, I probably would have had some second thoughts there, but you got to remember, had been a professor, and I was kind of a novice at this real estate thing, and didn't maybe think through all of the implications of building something like that on a city easement, even though I had their permission with a revocable permit. But if you read that revocable permit, it says it can be revoked basically with, I think, 24 hours notice. So the time has come. I'm getting ready to retire, so I put that 20-story building under contract and the garage, both of them. And this new outfit obviously is, hopefully we close this thing in the next few months. And I'm just trying to put all the ducks in a row, and I can realize that when the closing times come and they see that the facade of this thing is sitting on a revocable permit that could be revoked in 24 hours, it might be a cause of some concern. So I had a chat with some people in the city and economic development and think, look, would you guys support me in trying to do something about this, because it might grease the path of a new owner. And they acknowledged this was a problem, and that they wouldn't stand in our way if we made applications. So that's how I happen to be here today. And usually I'm here on something a little more serious with a lot of people out there, like the dog barking thing or something like that. So it's kind of nice to be here without anybody kicking and screaming. Sorry to have to bring you guys out here just to hear this one case.
And I would note that I had recommended he talk to the Public Works Director, and he did meet with her, and she had no objection to this because I needed to make sure she was okay with it, since they now do revocable permits, and this involves street right-of-way. So with that support,
Sure.
he is proceeding with this.
Okay.
Did that provide enough information for you on that, Eric? Or did that raise more questions?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the backstory and the sensitivity in particular because of the relationship to the memorial. So I appreciate that. It's just, I think about in 25 years when that garage is no longer economically viable and it gets demolished by the new entity, and now they've been granted an additional 16 inches into the public right-of-way, and does that create a problem for downtown planning in 50 years? Today, it's not a problem, but it could be. And I recognize you've got a dirty title that you need to be able to cleanly transfer to the new owner. And so it's just, for me, it would be useful if there was a letter or an email that said, I need this done, from Mr. Humphreys or Bill Clinton, that says, I need you to do this, other than phone calls and the story.
If the issue is the future, is there any way to say that if this language is only for this building in its current state, if this building is ever,
I'm going to have to defer to legal, but what I would say is, once we close and subsequently vacate, it's gone.
Okay.
And it is under private ownership. It becomes part of that deed. They start paying property taxes on that. I only flipped to this one to show, one of the comments I made is, so there's a sidewalk between it and the curb, street trees that could probably use some help. And we have some light poles as well in that area. I would comment that there's, as you all know, there's certain parts of downtown where we're kind of getting away from street trees, which is not necessarily a positive thing. We're having an issue with some of the trees, as you know, when you look down our street, we're having an issue with some of the street trees actually surviving. They get replaced, they keep dying. So there are tree wells adjacent to the building. There is a sidewalk. And so it's not as though they're taking more.
Okay. Do you have any other comments? Legal, as far as
No, I agree with
consideration
everything
for?
Laura said.
Okay,
Once it's gone, it's gone.
okay.
I just think like in 50 years, if someone puts a 70-story tower there and we have public realm around it, and right now, part of the reason street trees struggle is we don't give them enough room to survive, and we've already taken 16 inches away from them here. And I just, like, once you give it away, you can never get it back. And I don't know if there's a different legal instrument that revises the language of the revocable as opposed to giving it away forever. Or maybe it's not really in our purview and we just say it's a thing that exists before we existed and push it to planning and try and let them figure it out.
So what you're acting on today is you're making a recommendation to the Planning Commission. This isn't a CA. They don't actually need another CA because it's an existing condition.
Laura, could you show the photo again of where you're boxing the red? I'm mostly curious where it is along the street frontage. It's the whole front is 16 inches in.
And then both frontages and their wrap.
This is the one where you can see the alley, and you can see what it used to look like.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
All of
that's
that
good.
block you're seeing
Yeah.
on Harvey, that's all in the right of way.
Got it. That photo for some reason looked like one little piece, so that's why I was.
I got you,
wanting
yeah, it's like
clarification.
a certain
Yeah,
jet out.
It looked like a jet out.
So where I left the arrow that is the western end of that original parking garage. Whoops, the arrow
The
disappeared.
far left-hand side.
Near the left edge of the screen, where the pink is, that is the western edge of the original parking garage. And so from there towards us, getting larger toward this parking lot on the right, was the addition that was constructed. That does not encroach within the right-of-way because the city would not allow him another revocable permit to do that. So that one with the red, which I'm going back to.
While you're looking that up, going back to Eric's comment, is there a modification, an amendment, a footnote, something to the existing revocable permit that could clean this up so that the new property owner is protected, that the city's not coming to tear down, to say that this is coming down, but basically doesn't allow it to come down and be rebuilt in this location?
I would have to look into the revocable permit section, but I think they are limited in duration across the board. So even if it's not a year revocable permit, it's a 2-year revocable. Either way, it doesn't solve the problem he's trying to solve, which is the title issue, to get it transferred. This is the mechanism to get that done, which is closing and vacating.
So what this is showing is that to the left of the red, that's the original parking garage. And I probably, if I had made the whole front red, I think that would have looked strange. I was just trying to show you where it extends out, and everything to the left of that is in that facade is in the right of way. To the right is the addition. None of that is encroaching. That is on the property line.
Do we have documentation that the title company that will be transferring the title has officially stated that this is a problem and they won't close on the deal because of it?
That was never indicated that it's an issue. They were just wanting to have the entire ownership of the structure covered.
Yeah, so you're thinking that it's going to be required for title insurance for them to kind of,
Yeah,
for the title company to insure the building.
because I don't
they're
even
gonna
know
have
if they're to that
remove the
point.
revocable-
I don't know if they have that. But there could be title, there could be the insurance issues as well. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I would assume this is probably I agree with you with a title issue where it'd be a line item that the owner would have to.
Accept the risk.
Yeah, the new owner would either have to accept the risk or the current owner would have to clear it.
But the current owner has accepted the risk for the last 30 years.
So any suggestion that we could give to Mr. Dow, any clarification on what we're,
One of the things
Needing
I
further?
might suggest, and you've done this before on some other CEs where you've had concerns, is you've actually provided your motion included those concerns to the Planning Commission, because you're making a recommendation
Right.
to them, and so you could say, yes, no, whatever. You can actually forward no recommendation to them, because that's been done on there's a few occasions that's been done by, I think, this committee and some others.
right?
But you could list what your concerns are.
Is that enough, is that comfortable enough? I feel like, since we're only providing a recommendation, it's it's really up to planning.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we just don't provide a recommendation, yes or no, but we provide our commentary on our concern that has been addressed today. And,
Yeah, 'cause
I mean, I've seen before planning where they just rubber stamp, if we recommend it, they just stamp yes.
Sure, yeah.
So I think,
Yeah, you could actually make a motion to forward the
Forward
C to the
our
planning
comments.
commission with no recommendation, but here's the list of either stuff you talked about, concerns, suggestions, whatever.
Yeah. I
We can
think-
just send them up to them, and I will provide that to the planning commission staff, because they always include a little blurb from you
On comments.
in their staff report that they're probably wrapping up tomorrow.
And a recommendation that they watch the video. And
You can do that. That has happened before with some other motions. So that way you can actually not delay this.
Right. Okay.
you want to take a stab
Yeah,
at
do you want to take a, yeah, I was gonna say, you want to write some language?
The owner was wanting to, the owner applicant was wanting to comment.
Sure.
I would just say this, the new owners, since these is going to be a residential structure, their plan is to convert a good part of this garage to residential. And so there, the facade becomes very important. I would say these people are getting ready to spend about $90 million on this project. And I'll just be honest with you, this could sabotage it if we don't let this go through, in my humble opinion. I have a little more experience now with these matters than I did when I started with this mess.
Yeah, and I think that you give a valid concern for the future of that space, even when they're converting potential parking garage to residential, of having that extra foot and a half. And even more so if we're allowing residents to be in and out of this building, I think, there's consideration for what that looks like in the future. So, comments further?
I'm not familiar with this part of the garage, if it's flat, or if this is. It's flat with speed ramps? Okay, well, I mean, we don't know, that even goes more to the point of, we don't know what they plan to do. Do they plan to take down some and rebuild some? Because that's exactly what we're saying, no. We take no exception to it staying the way that it is, but we just want to make note that we're not giving this away without thought. If the planning commission says, no, this is the right solution, we're not stepping in their way with a motion of denial.
Right.
We're saying that.
Consider this further.
We take no action on this with the understanding that we're just asking for the clarity to the fact that we're not wanting to give away property in perpetuity is really the intent, but it's the planning commission's issue to resolve this item. I'm going to take a stab at a motion. I'm going to make a motion to provide no recommendation to the Planning Commission and note that there was extensive conversation about the concern of giving right-of-way property away forever, specifically with respect to what might happen if this building was ever taken down and then something else was built in its place. For the building in its location, no exception. That we'd like Planning Commission to just take that into consideration as they make their ruling on whether or not this right-of-way should be vacated. Is that a sufficient motion? Okay.
Sounds sufficient to me.
I'll second.
Okay.
Hang on just one second. For no recommendation? That's fine. Yeah, because I don't want you to select either the other two choices. And I
have
think Tony
made
Tony
a-
had.
I've made a motion.
Right, you made a
So-
motion, and Tony was asking if it covered everybody's concerns.
Yes.
And so we were waiting for a second.
Oh, yeah, we have a
And-
second
And so
from
Eric
Schmidt.
has a second, okay.
Yes.
What's on the screen?
There it is.
So far.
And I will listen to the tape and get every single word you said, because I got about a little less than half.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 8, communications. Laura, is there anything on this administrative approval?
Let me look at this and say, well, one very exciting one is the very first one on there. You might not recognize the address, but it's
Oh, yep.
Brown's
Brown's
Bakery
Bakery.
Building, and it captures some stuff that had kind of already started, because they were like cleaning up the structure and everything, but it also includes the adjacent building, which was the TGY building. I got to see some fantastic pictures that were taken from the inside looking out that were part of the National Register application, because that's also going through that process. So we're very excited about that. Let's see, anything else? We got signs. You've probably noticed we now have it's becoming a popular site for our super graphics on the Omni, which really shows up well. Sorry. Other than that, no, unless you guys have questions about that one. If not, I'll segue into planning. I don't really have an update for you on the committee commission consolidation, other than it is continuing on its path. There have not been any roadblocks at city council. So we are still thinking that your meeting next month would potentially be the last one of this configuration. And hopefully, some of you might be getting contacted by the mayor's office as they're working on what the two committees are going to end up looking like. We will not have a dual member like we currently do. And so I'm assuming you will get contacted, because it'd be one or the other, because you're not term limited out yet on either of them. And so hopefully we will have some really great information at the meeting next month.
Okay. Okay. Any comments from committee members? Okay. The next regular committee meeting is Thursday, August 15th, 2024. New applications will be submitted by staff, or to staff, by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, July 16th. Provisions and information on continued projects are to be submitted by July 23rd, 2024. And if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
Thank you.